Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial of CSS Flexbox. CSS Flexbox is a layout module. It is used to design a flexible, responsive layout structure. Before Flexbox layout module, there were 4 layout modes: block, inline, table, and position. We used block for section in a web page, inline for text, table for 2-dimensional data, and position for explicit positioning of an element. Flexbox properties are supported in all the latest modern browsers. In this tutorial, I'll show you and guide you through all the properties available within the Flexbox. As well as at the end of the tutorial, I'll show you a layout design using a Flexbox. To get started with the Flexbox, first I'll create a basic HTML structure. To get started with using the Flexbox, first we need to define a flex container. So we'll create a div with class of flex container. And we create a flex container with 3 flex items. So div will make the 3 copy of the div. 1, 2, and 3. Let's define a basic CSS styling for our flex container and the flex items. Flex container, we'll set the background color to F1, F1, F1. Background color of flex item to teal. And the text color will be white. We'll set the item width to 100 pixel. Margin will be 10 pixel. Text align center. We'll set the line height to 50 pixels. Maybe 80. Okay. 75 pixel. Font size to 26 pixel. So this container can be made flex container by setting the display property of flex container to flex display flex. As you can see, we have set the container to flex. After setting the container as a flex container, we can use the different available flex container properties like flex direction, flex wrap, flex flow, justify content, align items, align content. As we move forward with the tutorial, I'll explain each of the properties that we can use within the flex container. First, we will look into the flex direction property. We'll first look into the flex direction property. We use the flex direction properties to define in which direction the container wants the flex, each of the flex item to stack. For the flex direction properties, we have three options available. That is column reverse, row, and row. We'll make one more flex item. First, if we set the flex direction to column, it will stack each of the flex item vertically from top to bottom. So if you use column reverse as a flex direction, it will stack each of the flex item vertically but in reverse order, that is from bottom to top. That is, the fourth item will be the top, 3, 2, 1 in that order. Then also we can use flex direction with the property value of row. While using the flex direction value row, it will stack flex item horizontally from left to right. That is the same order that we have defined in our code. If we set the flex direction to row reverse, it will stack the item horizontally but in the reverse order from right to left, and it will align the item on the right hand of the container. Now, after using the flex direction, I'll talk about the property called the flex wrap. The flex wrap property is used to specify if the flex item should be wrapped or not. For the flex wrap property, we have three values available that we can use. That is wrap, no wrap, or wrap reverse. Wrap, no wrap, or wrap So to show the example of flex wrap, we'll add more item in our flex container. we have created 15 items within the flex container. So now we will define a flex wrap property and set the value to wrap. Using the wrap value in a flex wrap property, it is specified that flex item will wrap if necessary. So if we don't set the flex wrap, you can see it will not wrap. But if we set the flex wrap to wrap, after the 7th item, it will wrap when necessary. If we set the flex wrap to no wrap, you can see all the 15 items are aligned in one horizontal line. So basically, if we don't define flex wrap in our flex container, then it will use the default no wrap. That is, no wrap will be set as default value. If we set wrap reverse, as you can see, the flexible item will wrap if necessary in the reverse order. That is, the first item will be at the end and it goes on in the descending order from bottom to top. After the flex wrap property, we'll look into flex flow property. And we'll remove the more item. Generally, flex flow is a shorthand property for setting both the flex direction and the flex wrap property. So if we set flex flow value to row and when you set the flex flow value to wrap, the first value row and the second value wrap, the first value represent the flex direction property and the second value represent the flex wrap property. Now after this, we'll look into the justify content property of the flex container. Justify content. Justify content property is used to align the flex item. We can justify content in 5 ways. Either justify content center, flex start, flex end, space around, and space between. That is, the 5 values are center, flex start, flex end, around, and space. These are the available 5 values for justify content property. When you set the justify content to center, the flex item will align at the center of the container. As you can see, there is space on the left and space on the right. All of our 5 items are aligned at the center of the flex container. Similarly, when you set the justify content to flex start, justify content to flex start, it align all the flex item at the beginning of the container. By default, the justify content of the flex container is set to flex start. That is, if we don't define the justify content, it will be by default aligned to the left of the flex container, and on the right there will be the space left. Also, if we set the justify content to flex end, it will align the flex item at the end of the container, that is on the right hand side, and there will be space on the left hand side. Now we'll set the justify content to space around. What this does is basically space around value displays the flex item with space before, between and after the lines. That is, you can see before and at the before each item and at the end of each item there is space. Another value of space justify content. Another value of justify content is space between. As you can see, there is a space between each of the item, and the first, when you look at the first item, there is no space in front of the first item, and there is no space after the last item, but there is only space between each of the item. Now we'll look into the align item property of a Flexbox. The align item property is used to align the flex items. Align item property have 5 different values, that is align item center, flex start, flex end, stretch and baseline. So the 5 values are center, flex start, flex end, stretch and baseline. To better demonstrate this example, we'll set the height of the flex container to 400 pixel. First, we'll define align item property and set the value to center. Setting the value of align item to center, it align the flex item in the middle of the container. I have made one mistake here. We will be setting the height, as I said, I will be setting the height of the flex container to 400 pixel, but I set the value of the flex item to 400, height of the flex item to 400 pixels. So I'll be moving it here. So when you assign the align item property with the value of center, the flex item are in the middle of the container. There is equal space between the top and the bottom. As well as when you set the align item value to flex start, the flex start value align the flex item at the top of the container. Similarly, when you set the align items value to flex int, it will basically align the flex item at the bottom of the container. Now if we set the align item value to stretch, when you set the value of align item to stretch, it stretches the flex item to fill the container height. By default, the flex container are set to the align item property with the value of stretch by default. That is, if we don't set this, it is stretched by default. There is one more property left. So the final value for the align item property is baseline. So first I'll so the baseline value align the flex item such as their base lines align. That is, you can see the baseline is the center line. If we draw a center line, the baseline here, then the item are aligned based on their baseline. So the another property of flex container is align content property. Align content property. The align content property is used to align the flex line. Align content property have 6 different options. Those are space between, space around, stretch, center, flex start, and flex end. Now we'll set the align content property of flex container to space between. And to better demonstrate this example, we'll set the flex wrap to wrap, change our height to 600 pixel, and then we'll also add some more flex items. As you can see, using the space between value, it displays the flex line with equal space between them. That is, the first 6 items are aligned at the top of the flex container, whereas the remaining 4 items are aligned at the bottom of the container. So if you increase some more item, again there is an equal space between all the items. Now when you set the align content property value to space around, it displays the flex line with space before, between and after the item. As there is space at the front of the items, between the items in each horizontal lines, and after the item using the space around. The next one is stretch. It stretches the flex line to take up the remaining space. That is, if we remove if you only keep the 5 items in a flex container, it will stretch the item to take all the remaining space. But if we have more item, it will equally divide space to keep all the space within the container. By default, the align content is set to stretch for any flex container. As if we remove this, it is by default set to stretch. Now another value of align content is center. It displays the flex line in the middle of the container. Another value for flex container align content property is flex start. It basically displays the flex line at the start of the container. And another is the flex end. It basically displays the flex line at the end of the container and remaining all the space at the top of the line. These are all the properties value available within the align content. Now using the two properties of Flexbox, that is justify content and align item, we can perfectly center an item in a Flexbox. For example, if we comment out the items and keep only one item, and set justify content to center and align item to center, it perfectly aligns the item in the center of the flex container, as you can see here. So combining different property, you can align item according to your need. Also, now talking about the child element of the flex container, that is the flex item. If we set here, we have set the flex container class with the property display flex. So we have defined this container as a flex container. So the direct child within the flex container are automatically the flex items. So we have some of the properties for flex items also. So there are 6 different properties that we can set to flex items. The different properties available for the flex items are order, flex grow, flex shrink, flex basis, flex, and align self. These are the 6 properties that we can set to our flex item. We'll discuss each of the flex item property as we go on. First, we'll discuss about the order properties of a flex item. So by setting the order property in our flex item, it specifies the order of the flex item in which they will order within the flex container. So when we code the first flex item inside our flex container, that item can appear last within the flex container using the order property of a flex item. So basically the order property can change the order of the flex item that we can see in our display. For example, if we set the style with the property order of 4, you can see when writing the code, div with the content 1 is at the front of our items, but if we set the order property with the value of 4, that is, it will be in the 4th position. For example, if we set 2 to 5, here the first item is set to the order of 4, second to 5th, third to 2nd, 4th to 1, and 5th to 3rd. So you can see the 4th item is in the 1st position, the 3rd item is in the 2nd position, 5th item is in the 3rd position, 1st item is in the 4th position, and the 2nd item in the 5th position. So we can change the order of the flex item according to our requirement using the order property of a flex item. Similarly, we'll remove this. Now we'll talk about the flex grow property. The flex grow property specifies how much of flex item will grow relative to the rest of the flex item. So the value for the flex grow should be a number and the default value is 0. If we don't set any value to flex grow, the default value is 0. When you set a flex grow to 1, flex grow to 1, and then on the last item flex grow to 8. In this example, it grows the first and the second item twice that of the third and fourth, and the fifth item grows 8 times the other flex item. So here the fifth is the biggest has grown to 8 times than the rest of the item. Now we'll talk about the flex shrink property and removed. A flex shrink property specifies how much a flex item will shrink relative to the rest of the flex item. The value for the flex shrink property must be a number and the default value is 1. When you set the flex shrink to 0, default value is 0. Default value is 1 for flex shrink, but we have set flex shrink to 0 for third item. And if we increase, so setting the flex shrink to 0, we are not letting the third item shrink as much as other flex item. So other item has shrink from 1 to 2 and 4 to 11th, but the third item is not shrinking as much as the other flex item. Now we'll talk about the flex basis property. And set the third item with the flex basis property and set the value 200 pixel, or maybe 300 pixel. So we use the flex basis property to set the initial length of the flex item to 200 pixel. In this example, we have set the initial length of the third flex item to 300 pixel. But if we go on adding the flex item, it will take more space than the rest of the item according to the width we have provided. Now another property, that is flex. Flex is a shorthand property which contains the combination of flex grow, flex shrink and flex basis property. So it contains flex grow, flex basis. So when you set 0, 0 and 200 pixel, the first value specifies the flex grow, the second value specifies the flex shrink, and the third value specifies the flex basis, as you can see. Now another properties of the flex item is align self. The align self property specifies the alignment for selected item inside a flexible container. The align self property overrides the default alignment set by the container align item property. So it basically overrides the value that we have set using the align items property. When you set align items and center, so we can set So we can see when you set the align item center in a flex container, all the flex item are aligned at the center of a flexible container, but we have used the align self property within the flex item and set the value to flex end to override the default value set by the flex container align item property. So if we set flex start, it will align at the top of the flexible container. So basically we can use this to override the value set by the align item property. So these are the properties available within the flexible container and the flexible item, that is flex container and flex item. Now after completing this, as we have completed this tutorial, now we'll continue to make a simple layout using the flex container. So let's get started with the flex container layout design. As we have completed the basic tutorial of Flexbox container and item properties, now we will design 2-3 different layout using the Flexbox properties. Now we'll set the basic HTML structure. I'll set the title to layout 1. We'll set style 1. Now first we'll create a header. Layout 1. Box sizing, border box, and for body we'll set the display flex. Minimum height will be 100 viewport height. Flex direction will set to column, and margin will set to 0. Header, background, we'll set the height 20 viewport. We'll set the padding 1 em. Text align center. Now we'll create a div with the ID of main, and inside of which will element article. We'll create a nav. Now we'll define the property for main. We'll set display flex. This is the flex container, and we'll set the flex to 1. We'll set the property article. Flex 1, and order will be 1, so it will be then we'll set main nav. We'll set flex grow to 0, shrink to 0, and initial length to 20, viewport width. That is for nav. We'll again set the similar. You can see 20 viewport width for this and this. Now we'll set the order of nav to 3, that is, it will be the last item. Similarly, we'll set main. We'll set the background color to aqua and set the order to Now we'll also create footer. Background height padding 1 em. We'll set the padding to as you can see, this is the one of the basic layout that we can create. You can create the name menu here, the sidebar here, the main content here, the header and the footer. Now we'll create another layout. First we'll define the basic HTML structure. Layout 2, title, then we'll link our CSS, then we will create a nav, we'll write our CSS box sizing, border box. Then we'll set the property for body, display flex, minimum height will be 100 viewport height, flex direction will be row, and margin will be set to 0. Here we'll create a class and set it as col1, that is column 1. We'll create a style col1 and set background flex 1, flex group property, that is 1, and background Now we'll create a div with class col2, that is column 2, and inside of which we'll set our header, main, aside layout header, main content, sidebar. And we'll also add a footer. Now what we'll do is we'll define the CSS property for column 2. We'll set the display and define it as flex container, and set the flex direction to row, flex growth to 5. So as you can see, so nav column is 1, and the column 2, that is the main column containing the header, main, side and footer, have the flex growth set to 5. Now we'll set the main class to contain I think I made a mistake here. We'll set the content to display flex, and flex direction will be row. We'll set the properties for article. This will set the flex grow to 3 and minimum height is set to 60 viewport height. Similarly, we'll set the properties for side. We'll set the flex to 1. We'll set the background then we'll set property for header and footer. Height 20 viewport. Header, footer, article, nav. Now we'll set the padding 1. I am having some problem here. I don't know where I have done the mistake. I made the mistake here. I'll change this color to as you can see, this is our layout which contains the main nav bar here, the layout, header, the footer, main content, and the sidebar here. Using this layout, you can create a hamburger icon which can toggle this nav bar on and off using this layout. This layout is complete. Now we'll move on to the next layout. Now we will create our third layout. First we'll define the basic HTML like usual. Then we'll set the title layout 3 and we add our CSS. Now we'll create our header, layout header, we'll set a div with an ID of main. We'll create article, nav, a site. At the bottom we'll add footer. Now we'll create our CSS. Set box sizing to border box. Set the body with the properties of display flex, minimum height, 100 viewport height. Flex direction will be set to column. Set the margin to 0. Then we'll select the ID main. We'll set the property display flex. We'll define it as flex container. Then we'll set the flex with a flex grow of 1. We'll set the flex grow to 1 for article. And set the background color. I want some grayish color, dark gray for now. Now we'll assign the properties for nav, as well as together we'll set for a side also. We'll set the flex, set the flex grow 0, flex shrink to 0, and the flex basis of 20 viewport width, and set the background to aqua. We'll bring the nav to the left hand side, so we can set order to -1, which will bring the nav on the left hand side. Now for header and footer, we can set the background color to I don't like this color. And we'll set the height to 20 viewport height. I don't like this color. So this is our third layout. And the top has the layout header, bottom footer. On the left side we have the nav bar. On the right side we have the sidebar. On the center we have the main content. This is the third layout. Now we'll create our fourth layout. This is the last and one of the good layout. Now we'll start by setting our basic HTML. Layout 4. And link to our style sheet. Link. CSS style dash 4. Now first we'll create a div with a class of header. Div with class of header. We'll set h1. We'll set the header to good layout 4. We'll set the sub header, or you can say the slogan, Flex Layout run the live server first. We'll start with CSS. Box sizing will set to border box. We'll set the font family to Arial. Margin 0. Now for our header, we'll set the padding to 0. Now padding to 50 px. Text align will be center. Set the color to white. Now we'll define our navbar. Div with the class of navbar. Home. Now we'll design our navbar. Set display to flex. Background color will be we'll set the text color to white. Padding will be 14 pixel and 18. We'll set text decoration to none. Text align center. We'll set the background too. We know about the background will be this, and color is basically fine. So this will be the nice hover effect, simple and clean. Now we'll create the main content, that is div, where we'll set the class to row. Inside of this we'll create a div with a class of side. This is for the sidebar. We'll set the heading as to this is for sidebar. Now this another one is for div. We'll set class main. This is for the main content. I'll write the CSS for our main content. Define as class row. We set the display to flex. Flex wrap will be set to wrap if necessary. That is when you view the web page on the mobile device, it will wrap so that one content will be below the another content. For the sidebar, we'll set the flex, that is flex grow to 30%. Stick. We'll set the background. Now for the main, we'll set the flex grow to 70%. We'll set the background color will be white. Now we'll create a div with class footer. We'll set the CSS for the footer. Now we'll add content to this section, so make it alright. Ready with class image class. This is our C of thank you. Now we'll add main content as well. Now you can see our layout, good beautiful layout design. As you can see, the sidebar will be at the top and main content will be in the smaller screen. As you see, this is not a good layout because it has been shrunk to so small size. So we can now use the media screen at maximum width of 720 pixel. We'll change the row and navbar to flex direction to column, so you can see now it is good. We have developed this beautiful layout using the Flexbox. If you like my tutorial, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel, as well as don't forget to hit the bell icon. Now we'll try to create one more last layout using Flexbox. Then we'll move into making the photo gallery, then the card design using Flexbox, then finally the tubal grid system using Flexbox. Now let's continue with the Flexbox Layout 5. We'll start with simple HTML5. Set our title to Layout 5. Then we will include our CSS. First we will create the basic HTML structure. First we will create a nav with class of column1. Then we'll give a div with a class of call2. Then we'll add our header. The main element with the class of content. Article with this will be we'll add it inside the main. Then the footer div with class of footer. Now maybe we'll try to create element footer. Now we'll run the live server preview. As you can see, now we'll try to write our CSS. Box sizing to border box. Then the style for our body. We'll set display to flex. Minimum height will be set to 100 viewport height. And we'll set the flex direction to row. Also setting the margin to 0. Now we'll write the CSS for our column1. We'll set the background color to we'll set it to 2. And we'll set flex grow to 1. Now we'll set the CSS for the column 2. We'll set the display flex The flex direction will be row. This time flex direction will set to column, and we'll set flex grow to 5. This one is for the column 2. It contains all this, so we have set column for the different element inside a col tool. Now for content, we'll set display flex, then set the flex direction to row. Again for content, we have the article. We'll set the article to flex grow to 4. Minimum height 60 viewport height. Then for the header, we'll set the background color. We'll set the text color to white, and for header we'll set the height to 20 viewport height. Also we'll use the same for the footer. And we'll assign the padding for header, footer, article, and the nav. We'll set the padding to 1 em. And this one is fine. Now this is the layout 5. As we have completed, this side we have the nav bar. Here is the header. Here will be the main content and the footer. This is one of the basic examples that you can use to modify it and make according to your wish. Now in this example, we'll try to create a simple photo gallery using the Flexbox. First we'll define a basic HTML5 document. We'll set the title to photo gallery. Then we will include our CSS photo gallery.css. Now in the body we'll define element main. Main, and it will contain we'll try to include 9 img tag. As we have generated the 9 img tag for the image, I am going to use placeimage.com. From here I'll set the height and width to 300 pixel so that the image will be square, and you can choose any categories or leave it, and you can copy this URL and place in your project. Now I'll run the live server preview. As you can see, 9 images. We don't have any CSS till now. I'll give this element a class of cards. As I have created the card class, we can change the name for the placeholder as people. To make it look nice, because we will have different category. Now we'll write the CSS. We'll set the display to flex. Flex wrap. Flex wrap will set to wrap. Align items will set to flex start. Flex direction will be row. If you set column, it will be so. We have to set it to row. We'll set maximum height to 100, viewport height. Now this was for the flex container. Now we'll set it for the flex image, that is the flex item. We'll set the margin to 10 px, 10 pixel, border to 3 pixel, solid, we'll set box shadow to 3px, 3px, we'll give a light shadow on the back, as you can see. Now we'll set max width to 23, viewport width. You can set to 25, so you can see the beautiful image gallery. You can also set when image will be hover. We can increase the max width to 27. Set the transition to all. Smooth animation. or instead of using the max width, you can use the transform scale 1.2 maybe. You can set the border 0.4. We'll set the color to white. Now you can see the beautiful image hover effect onto our flex item. In this way you can create your own image gallery, and you can use more creative idea to come up with more beautiful photo gallery. This much for image gallery. Next I'll show the tutorial of how you can make the cards with image and text content using the Flexbox. Now let's get started with the example where we'll create a cards with the image and content, text content. We'll start by creating a basic HTML. We'll set the title to cards design. Then we'll add our CSS. After that, we'll create the main element and we'll give the class of cards. After that, we'll create an element article with a class of card. As you can see, this is plural and this is singular. Then we'll create a tag image. In the SRC we can use we'll set the ALT text to card design. Now inside we'll create a div with a class of text, inside of which we'll create a S3 tag. We'll create a title Flex Layout tutorial. Then we'll create a paragraph tag. We'll remove the more text that we don't need. Now we'll try to copy one more. We'll set tag. We'll create a for card. We'll set it to people. Now we'll run a live server preview. As you can see, there is nothing. You can see just the image and some text. Now we'll design our CSS. we'll set, as always, we'll set box sizing to border box. For now, we'll set the margin to 0 for body. For the cards class, we'll set a display property to flex, and set flex wrap to wrap, and we'll set align items to stretch. For the card that is the flex item, we'll set flex grow and flex shrink to 0, and we'll set the flex basis, the third property in the flex, the third value in the flex property is flex basis. We'll set to 200 pixel. We'll set the margin to 10 pixel. We'll set border 1 pixel solid. Here is the mistake. Now you can see the basic structure. We have set the border. We have given the margin of 10 pixel. We comment out the margin. You can see all the flex item are attached. So we'll give the margin of 10 pixel. If we don't give the flex basis to 200 pixel, that is the base initializing the flex item with 200 pixel. If we don't give it, it will cover the whole width. So we are giving 200 pixel. Now we'll also give the box shadow 2 pixel, 2 pixel, 6 pixel, 0, and RGBA to 0, 0, 0, 0.3. As you can see, the light shadow on our card template. Now we'll give the CSS for the card image. We'll set the max width to 100%. Also, card text class. We'll give the padding 0, 20 pixel. We'll set the flex basis to 300 pixel. Otherwise the card is so narrow, so we'll give 300 pixel. We'll add one more thing. We'll add a button and set it to read more. Now we'll add the styling to the button. We'll set the background color to we'll set border 0, text color to white. We'll set the padding of 10 pixel and we'll set the width to 100%. As you can see, our card layout is ready. So in simple way, you can create a beautiful card in your website. Similarly, you can use some hover effect, like when you hover over the card, you can zoom in the image, and similar to make it more attractive and interaction with the user. In the next example, we'll demonstrate how you can use the Flexbox to create a 12 column grid using the Flexbox basically. In this example, we'll try to create a 1 column grid to 12 column grid using the Flexbox. First, we'll define a basic HTML. Then we'll write the title of our document, Flexbox 12 column . We'll set a div with a class of and we'll set a div we'll write our CSS. We'll set it to border box. First, I need to add the CSS in the HTML. Now we'll define our flex container. So the class wrapper is our flex container. So we'll set display to flex, and for we'll set the div inside of the wrapper as a flex item. We'll set font size to 2 em, maybe 3 em for now. First, let me run the live server preview. We'll set the text color to white. We'll set background color to we'll set margin to 0.1 em. We'll set padding to 0.3 em. Also, we'll set border radius to 2 pixel and set flex to 1. Now you can see We'll set font size to 2em. Similarly, we can copy this. As you can see, we have in the first one column that is having the width of whole web page, and the second having the 2 grid item covering the hub. If you use the 2-well column grid system, as you can see, this first one is taking all the 2-well column to make a single column. In the second one, if we divide the 2-well column into 2 halves, it is taking the space of 6 and it is taking the space of 6. Now similarly we will make 3. Five. 6. 7 column. 9 column. This is the 10th column. Eleventh, and the flex container with the 2-well column grid system is here. In this way you can make 2-well column grid style. In this tutorial I have shown you how you can use the Flexbox, and then how you can use the Flexbox concept to create different layout, image gallery, card design, and this grid. In similar to Flexbox, there is another layout module known as grid layout, whereas Flexbox is a one-dimensional layout module, whereas the grid is a two-dimensional. In the next tutorial, I'll try to cover all the properties of grid layout module and try to bring up some of the example like I have shown you in the Flexbox example. So hope you liked my video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to keep updated about the new tutorial, please don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you can get the latest update regarding new tutorial and video. Thank you for watching. See you soon with the next tutorial.